Hello, I'm Dr. Dempsey, and this is an educational program put on by the Allied Trades Assistance Program. This slide is one in a series on mental health and substance abuse. Today we're going to talk about alcoholism. Alcohol is one of the oldest known drugs on the planet. It's been around for thousands of years. But what most people don't know about alcohol is that alcohol is merely just a byproduct of chemical reactions. Basically, it's a mistake. It wasn't created on purpose. Somebody just happened to find it, and ever since we found it, there's been problems created from it. Alcohol by design or by mistake is one of the only substances that is what is called fat soluble in the blood-brain barrier. Alcohol itself can penetrate into your brain. Now, what that means is you're going to have problems from that. Drugs either work because they are acting like a substance that you have in your system, and one of those drugs would be insulin. It acts like a substance you already have in your system, or it's a poison, and it gets you intoxicated because it's poisoning you. Alcohol is a poison. It does not act like anything that is in your system. It is poisoning you. And the reason you feel differently when you consume it is because it is altering your brain. Okay? Now, typically where alcohol hits is will hit the front part of your brain. The front part of your brain is the part of your brain that says, hey dummy, don't do that. It's the part that tells us not to get involved in certain relationships. It's the part of our brain that tells us not to steal that thing we might want to take. It's the part that tells us we have to slow down when we see a police officer, when you're driving. But alcohol puts that part of our brain to sleep. And so we make decisions that we would not typically make when we use alcohol. Now, alcohol often will lead to other substance use. What happens is you have individuals who will drink, who will say, I will never use any other substance, and then once they have a few substances in their system, such as alcohol, once they have a few alcoholic beverages in their system, that part of them that says don't do that falls asleep. And then they wind up using cocaine or any other substance. Now, for somebody who works in the building trades or another industry where you get drug tested, that can have dire consequences. Because you may not have intended that evening to go out and use any substance, but after you start drinking, the part of you that says don't do it is asleep, so you go ahead and do it. That same part of our brain tells us not to get in the car after we've been drinking. It goes to sleep as well. So you may have intended when you hit the bar to not drive home, but once you have that alcohol in your system, that part of you that says don't get in the car is asleep, and you get in the car. One of my other jobs that I work is for the Department of Corrections in a state on the East Coast. And we often have people who find themselves in prison who committed a crime while under the influence of alcohol. Probably some 10% of those people locked up, at least in our system, had an alcohol-related issue when they were incarcerated. Now, what is alcoholism? Most people believe that in order to be diagnosed an alcoholic, you have to have done some terrible, terrible things. But the reality of it is most people who have an alcohol problem work full-time jobs, they're good parents, they go to church or other religious ceremonies, they enjoy a good lifestyle, but when they drink, that drinking gets out of control for them. Alcoholism is something called progressive, which means that it continues to get worse over the life of the person who continues to use that alcohol. Now you may ask yourself, how come some people have alcohol problems and other people do not? Well, what is clear now, maybe 30 years ago we didn't know this, but what is clear now to us is alcoholism has a clear genetic component. If you have a first-degree relative, such as a parent or a sibling, who has a substance abuse problem, specifically alcohol, it is very likely that you will develop one as well. Now, the reason why that happens isn't as important as to understand that it does. People who are related to other folks who have alcohol problems often find themselves developing alcohol problems. The other thing about alcoholism is that you usually do not find that you have a problem until somewhere into your 30s and 40s. And sometimes people use that as an excuse to say, look, I was just young with some of the decisions that I made with the alcohol. One of the reasons it takes so long for these problems to crop up into your 30s and 40s is because oftentimes people are resilient and they may stop drinking occasionally, but when they do drink, they wind up having a problem. Again, in order to have an alcoholism diagnosis, you do not have to drink every day. In fact, most people who have alcohol problems do not. They may drink one time a week or one time a month. The idea is when they do drink, they have problems. Okay? So, how does somebody develop an alcohol problem? They develop an alcohol problem because of their genetics, and they develop an alcohol problem in many cases because they have other things going on with them. Sometimes people have depression or anxiety that's untreated, and alcohol will reduce that in the short term. They may have social problems that they feel badly about, and alcohol takes that away. Some people have a problem that they don't have any other recreational activities that are not outside of alcohol. That is a problem. If the only thing that you do for recreation outside of work is involved in a bar or related to an alcohol-related activity, you will likely develop an alcohol problem. Okay? So what do you do if you find that you have an alcohol problem? Alcohol is a substance that you should not stop drinking without help. Because if you're someone who drinks enough alcohol over a long period of time, you can develop significant physical dependence to that substance. If you stop using alcohol abruptly, you can have very complicated medical problems, up to and including seizures and death. So seeking help to get off of alcohol is very important. You can contact folks at Alcoholics Anonymous, or you can contact folks through your health plan, or you can contact folks through the Allied Trades Assistance Program. Now, one final comment about alcoholism. Alcoholism is a disease that is unique. It is often reinforced by family members who complain to you that they want you to stop. But in many cases, those same family members who complain to you that they want you to stop find that they're the ones who reinforce your behavior. They may be the ones who you go out drinking with. They don't like the consequences after you drink, but they're the ones who egg you to go ahead out. So it's very important that as a family, when you seek treatment, you seek it together. Because getting treatment by yourself will often result in problems in recovery. For information related to recovery and treatment, again, you can contact the Allied Trades Assistance Program, and their number is 1-800-258-6376 or 215-677-8820.